This is a tutorial on how to upload your T12, which will populate the income and the expenses. I should notice here that all my expenses are 0 right now and all my income are 0. And my IRR is 41%, which is way too high. That's because I only have the unit mix, which gives me the gross potential rent, but I don't have the expenses. So here's how you will upload the T12. Click on here, and then I'm going to download the sample T12 right here. I'm gonna drag and drop this T12. Now, if you want to know what the T12 looks like, it looks like this, like that. Okay. If I make this larger, do view, and then make this one larger. Okay. So you can see there's the other income, there's the total income, gross potential rent, and then the costs, expenses, admin costs, legal costs, marketing costs. So what we're going to do is we will parse all of this on the software, okay, directly like this. So I'm gonna click on save, okay. So this is processing. It might take up to a minute. After it's been processed, the second time is really fast, but the first time, if we haven't seen this T12, it might take up to a minute, okay. Now, if you click on income, you can see that June 2023, the total income is 290,000. Bingo, 290,000. June, 289,000, 289,000. So that's correct. The other income is automatically parsed right here. Okay. Now, note that sometimes this is where it gets really advanced. Sometimes the bad debt might be considered a expense or other income. And it's not technically correct that way, but if it's your T12 shows up that way, we will parse it that way. There's nothing we can do about it, okay? So you do have to look at these other income and see, is this really other income, or this is more of a, regular income or expense? But if it's under the other income, we will parse it accordingly. All right, so you can see the total other income is 233,000 on this spreadsheet, and it's 233,000. Perfect. Okay, so that's that. Now, the projections, obviously, you can use the projections. You can see based on the T12, the economic vacancy is this amount. Based on the T3, this is the economic vacancy. It has gotten better. And then you can project the economic vacancies going forward. Okay, so that's fine. Now, click on the expenses. By parsing the T12, we automatically parse your expenses. The most important button here is you see that these are your predefined expense categories. Your T12 can be any expense category you want. The most important button is click on this, View T12 Breakdown. When you click on it, what it does is that it will show you how I got this $53,000 for contract services. It's actually consisting of the contract services section in your T12, which is this one, right? And that's 21,000 only. But it also includes this new category from your T12. It doesn't exist in all T12, but this T12 is 32,000 for grants, security, landscaping, so on. The T12 parser is smart enough to use AI to know that these things, the contract services section and the grant section, both belong to the contract services predefined category that's used on your underwriting. So these are the categories for underwriting, and these are the sections in your specific T12. Your T12 may have all kinds of sections, but we are smart enough to classify them accordingly into the predefined categories. I hope that makes sense, okay? So again, if you want to know what's this utilities, so utilities, that consists of electric, trash, water, and utility meters and so on. That's $608,000. Okay, that's a lot, okay? So right here. So that's utilities. So we break it down into these sections. So 608,000, that which is correct. That gives me another point to demonstrate. This is a very nifty trick. For whatever reason, you want to break down this 608,000, which seems to be the largest expense that I have, and I want to move this water out of it because water seems really high and electricity seems really high, right? I can add a new item. I'm gonna call this thing water. I need to save it so that this becomes a predefined category. Again, these pre-categories, it can be whatever you want. Then I click on the View 12 breakdown, and I can reclassify this water into whatever other predefined category that might have. So I click on water, And then I tell the software to change the pro forma accordingly with these changes. So what it will do is it will reclassify this item which exists on your T12, this line item called 6955 water and sewer, onto this new category. So I'm going to click on save, and then bingo. You see the water gets classified here, and that $68,000 decreased by the 203, which becomes 405. So if I click on here again, you don't see the water anymore. You see what I'm saying? And so the water now increased by the accordingly amount. Now you can say, I'm gonna do some water conservation, so I'm going to do, like $150,000. That's going to be my budget because I'm gonna do some water efficient toiletry and shower heads. So that's beautiful, right? So that's how you do it. Or you can move it back if you want to. So for example, I'm gonna move it back. So I'm gonna move it back here to the utilities. Where's my utility? Oh, there it is, my utilities. And I'm going to move all of this back into here. 68,000. Bingo. Very good. All right, cool. So that's that. Now for the projections, we understand underwriting really, really well. So you can put the increases on your expenses accordingly. So the property tax might increase at a different rate than your insurance. So for example, my property tax increased by 10%, which is a lot. And then my insurance increased by 15%. And then my normal expense increased by 3%. So we will calculate that your weighted average, a weighted increase for the total expense is 6.1%. So you can do that as well, right? So you don't have to do the calculation yourself. In the future, there will be a way to put an arbitrary expense category, predefined expense categories, and then you can put the increase for that category. So to give the previous example, let's say you have a water and you actually want to put in water specifically, and you are telling the software, say, hey, water is actually going to decrease by 50% because we're going to do water conservation. Electricity, we're going to have we're going to have solar panels, so it's going to decrease by 20%. You can also do that in the future. All right, so that's that. All right, so that's the expenses. So this is a very powerful tab where you have a T12 and then it will automatically parse the income and expenses. Note that if you upload another T12 on top of it, what it will do is it will create another income scenario. So again, with all tabs, you can click on the income and then you can clone this thing. Okay, and then you can make any one of them to be the active scenario. And then I'm going to call this one, like scenario 2, right? And so this one may be the aggressive income. So maybe call it aggressive income increase, right? Okay, so like that. And then you can say, oh, these are my rent increases. This is the first year. And then this is actually increasing 4% per year. So like 4% per year. Obviously, that's going to increase the IRR, right? So if you click on here, you can see the aggressive income increase gives me a 14% IRR. And then the regular income increase only gives me an 11% IRR. The point though is that you don't have to create a different spreadsheet. You can use the same spreadsheet and the data was automatically saved. I know this is a long video, but I think this is the most powerful part of the software, okay? The last thing I want to mention is that even if you don't have the T12, just for the record, you don't need the T12 per se because you can just fill in this total number yourself. Because the only thing the T12 helps you, like even if you couldn't parse the T12 for whatever reason, you just have to fill in this total income, other income. So these are the 4 things you need to fill in. And then everything else, it's all just projection. And then yes, you have to fill in the expenses. But without a software, you are doing that anyway with your spreadsheet. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.